Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi tahirin. Welcome to our course on spirituality that we are holding here at 7:45 a.m. And we're in this course, as I introduced in the last lesson last week. What we're going to do is we're going to have some points about spirituality, about akhlaq, and about some irfanic points. So this is not like a course which is following a specific textbook per se, but it is a kind of combination of um, different points that could be taken as, um, inshallah, beneficial to one's spirituality. So, the first thing that I want to talk about today is the difference between the akhlaqi method and the irfani method. The ethical method or the akhlaqi method is a method which is used to adorn oneself with virtues, noble moral qualities like generosity, like chastity, and to remove vices, ugly, immoral traits like condemnable anger, like unchastity. So, ilm al-akhlaq's aim is cleaning up the human to become a virtuous person. Yes, some moral qualities most definitely relate to our religious aspects, and all of them can relate to our religious aspects, but some people may develop some moral qualities for other purposes. Like a person may become generous because he views it as a good thing. But another person may develop generosity because he is seeking to be generous for obedience to God, for the sake of Allah the Exalted, to get closer to Allah. So it's very important in ilm al-akhlaq to position our moral qualities to be those moral qualities which direct towards Allah the Exalted, which are in obedience to Allah the Exalted, aimed at the rida of Allah the Exalted, the pleasure of Allah the Exalted, and this is Allah's mercy, Allah's reward. It's maybe taken, we could take it as metaphorical for that. So akhlaq, though, some maybe it could be kind of maybe considered as neutral somewhat, but not really, because to be a real akhlaqi person, it has to be in line with seeking Allah the Exalted. But people can develop moral virtues and remove vices, but they will not gain perfect akhlaq or the perfections of those moral qualities unless they are in obedience to Allah the Exalted. So the akhlaqi method is like if you have a dirty room, say you have a kitchen and it's very messy. Now imagine this kitchen is your soul. Your soul's very messy, has many vices, many filthy things, bad desires. So the akhlaqi method would tell you that when you go into that kitchen and you begin to clean up your soul, you can start anywhere. So in the akhlaqi method, you can start with any given virtue or vice. You see you have an anger problem, you start making habit against it. When you're angry, you pull back from it until that becomes a fixed habit, and you regulate your potential of ghadabiyya, of anger. The irfani method. The irfani method seeks to obtain a realization of Allah the Exalted. I like this word, realization. And irfani scholars, they may term this as tajalli. But in the irfani method, it doesn't tell you to start wherever you want. It has a certain methodology, meaning you start from this point and you work your way up. So if you're cleaning this kitchen of your soul, you'll start from the, say, right on your right, you'll start from around the doorway and then you work your way through the whole kitchen. So there's a certain methodologies amongst irfani scholars. Now those irfani scholars, they differ. They differ in what stations and stages there are. So there's differing views on how to achieve this realization of Allah the Exalted. So that's the difference between the irfani and the akhlaaqi methods. As for irfan, it has two types. It has irfan nazari, theoretical irfan, and irfan al-amali. Irfan al-amali is the practical irfan, the things that you do to reach a stage of purity and a stage of realization. So the first stage that some irfani scholars discuss is called yaqza, or we translate this is awakening or wakefulness. So according to some of the urafa, this is the very first level of spiritual progress that is in the irfanic approach. Now, in irfan, they have something they discuss called hal and makam. Hal is those kind of temporal states, and makam are the stations that when those states become like permanent, you're in those stations. So awakening is the first station. And then they continue through, and they could be intermingled. So what is awakening? What is being woken up? Now, I alluded to this a little bit in the last lesson. We human beings, in many cases, are in a sleep of heedlessness. We are in ghafla. Our attention, our focus is on dunya, is on other than Allah the Exalted. It's on our bodily pleasures and joys. It's on our possessions. And it's not directed to the absolute beloved. It's not directed, our attention is not focused on the exalted, the ever-living God. We are not being conscious of Him. We are sleepwalking, heedless, ignoring the reality. Therefore, what do we have to do? We have to wake up. We have to awaken to our real circumstances, to our real situation. We must realize our real condition, the condition of insaniya, the condition of humanity. And we must realize and think and ponder upon where we are going. And most importantly, realize who our Creator is. We have to awaken to the reality. Now, there are some different methods that are employed, discussed, and mentioned on how to awaken a sleepy soul. So this discussion of gathering together all those different methods to wake us up, that's not necessarily the point here of this course. So I'm just going to mention a little. So something you could try is something that we have called Nur al-Aql. So you may try the light of intellect. Aql, intellect, understands about Allah the Exalted, that He, the Exalted, is the only God, that He, the Exalted, has the authority, that He, the Exalted, deserves to be worshipped and obeyed. If you look at the very first narration in Kitab al-Kafi, we say not all the narrations in Kitab al-Kafi are authentic. This is the view I uphold. In Kitab al-Kafi, the very first hadith is sahih. It's authentic hadith. I mentioned this many times. It mentions intellect. It shows, if you look at that hadith, it shows that the aql, the intellect, obeyed Allah and it recognized the authority of Allah the Exalted. If we're not doing those things, how intellectual are we? How aqli are we if we are not obeying Allah and recognizing the authority of Allah the Exalted? Now, some scholars, they consider this hadith as metaphorical, and some consider it as literal. So there's a discussion there amongst the ulama on this specific narration. So anyways, we could use Nur al-Aql. How we could understand some things about Allah the Exalted. Some free notions that Allah the Exalted is the only God, that He is the absolute, that He is the limitless, that there is nothing at all like Allah the Exalted. Allahu Akbar, He's greater than anything that can be described. So we just realize some things about Allah that should humble our minds and make us awe-stricken if we really realize them. But our minds can understand them through some intellectual arguments, some proofs, and they can realize these things. We can understand that He, the Exalted, is not absent from us. That He is absolutely perfect being. There's nothing like Allah the Exalted. Nothing at all like Allah the Exalted. That all things other than Him are created by Him, and they are all needy for Him absolutely. All creation are poor, and Allah is the rich. We can realize that He, the Exalted, is the Creator, and we are the created. He is the eternal, and we are the occurring. We are the created. So that is one way that we could try to wake up our sleepy souls from this ghafla, from this heedlessness, to get some kind of intellectual understanding about Allah the Exalted, on His exaltedness, on His existence. Another way is the awakening of the fitra, the intrinsic nature. That is, sometimes things in life happen to us when we are in a sleep that awaken this innate intrinsic inclination. The innate intrinsic inclination for who? For Allah the Exalted. One of my teachers, he was involved with commercial boats, big boats, and he's in um, he told us a story when we were in class. He said he once took his family on this big commercial ship, and one time he got woken up by rolling out of his bed. He fell out of his bed. He has his family with, and he went and looked out, and the waves were covering the ship. He realized God. He realized God. In that very moment in which you have no hope in any other creature, your soul will call out to the one, the exalted creator, as if you were a sailor and you became shipwrecked and you're clinging to a plank, your hands slipping. You will grasp and call out from your inner soul with hope. That hope is a call to the exalted Allah, the exalted. So many times things happen in life which may shake your soul and wake it up. This is the awakening of your fitra. It's what scholars term as the awakening of your fitra. So those are two things that we can look at for that may be useful in waking our souls up. Now, another point that I mentioned in the last lesson was having a good heart, a sound heart. So over here and beyond it, in this awakening stage, and even after the awakening stage, it becomes so very, very important in all of our spiritual growth to have a sound heart, qalbu salim. So we must make our hearts sincere to Allah the Exalted and pure for Allah the Exalted. We must be cleaning our heart up from all the filth that has accumulated from the years of ghafla, from the years of heedlessness and sin. And we must adorn it with the beautiful decorations of a righteous heart. We find in the Holy Quran, Surah 26, Yawma la yanfa'u malun wala banun illa man ata Allah bi kalbin salim. The transinterpretation of it: the day when neither wealth nor children will avail, except him who comes to Allah with a sound heart. It's Surah 26, Ayat 87 and Ayat 88. So to be able to meet an intense realization and discovery about Allah the Exalted, scholars in Irfan al-Amali, they suggest vitally two very important methods for cleaning up the self. Two very important methods for cleaning up the self. They are takhali and tahali. I will talk about takhali and tahali in the next week, inshallah. Wa akhiru dawana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.